Virginia's gubernatorial election is just 11 days away, and recent polls show that the two candidates are tied. This is the first major electoral test of Biden's presidency. Democrat Terry McAuliffe is pulling out all the major stops, with party politicians campaigning for him, while Republican Glenn Youngkin is mostly speaking for himself. Joining me now with the latest on this race is Gregory Schneider. He is a staff writer at the Washington Post. Good to have you on the show. So President Biden won Virginia by 10 points just last year, and now the Republican and Democratic candidates for governor are tied. Explain to us, Greg, why the shift?
Well, thanks for having me, Lana. A big part of what's changed is who's in the White House now. With Donald Trump no longer in the White House, he'd been broadly unpopular across Virginia and had really inspired Democrats to come out in big numbers, and had taken some suburban districts that had been red for a long time and tilted them over toward blue. And so Democrats have been winning by increasing margins over the 4 years of his presidency. So now, without Donald Trump in the White House, with some fatigue maybe among Democratic voters, the question is turnout on the Democratic side. And then at the same time, President Biden has had some setbacks this year, and his popularity is down in Virginia. So he's probably serving as somewhat of a drag on the Democratic ticket. So you've got Republicans pretty fired up behind their nominee, Glenn Youngkin, who's a businessman, comes across as a very likable, non-threatening, reasonable kind of guy. And so they're excited. And the question is whether Democrats are as excited and motivated to come out as they have been over the past few years.
So setting aside independents, on that point about trying to get Democrats fired up, we've seen the biggest names in the Democratic Party campaigning for Terry McAuliffe. Are they having an impact in firing up their base?
Well, we'll know, November 2nd, but it appears to be having an impact. 4 years ago, when Ralph Northam was running for governor, former President Obama, came out around this same time of year and spoke and generated a lot of enthusiasm among Democratic voters. And President Obama is coming tomorrow to Richmond. He's going to be speaking here, and President Biden is coming on Tuesday, also aiming to fire up the Democratic base. They're particularly interested in getting African-American voters engaged. That's a big part of the electorate in Virginia for Democrats, and a faithful part of the electorate. Black women in particular are the most faithful of all the constituencies within the Democratic Party. And there's been concern this year. During the Democratic nominating primary, there were 2 black women running for the nomination for governor and a black man. And of course, Terry McAuliffe, the former governor, white, older man, was not the first choice of some of the younger, more progressive members of the Democratic Party. So that's been another question mark on the enthusiasm issue, is whether he'll motivate them to come out.
And we certainly saw what a big impact black women had in the general election last year. So as we're talking about all these Democrats coming out to support McAuliffe, on the other side of the coin, Republican Glenn Youngkin says he does not need any campaign surrogates. Greg, might that be also serving another purpose for him, though?
Well, it's a very fine line that Glenn Youngkin has to walk. He needs the support of the base of the Republican Party, and Donald Trump is still the biggest motivating factor for them. They support him, but across those suburbs, those crucial swing districts, President Trump is not popular. So Glenn Youngkin has to find a way to both keep his base engaged and fired up, but also not scare off the suburbs and come across to them as someone who's in touch with their issues. So he's been very reluctant to openly embrace President Trump, although Trump keeps inserting himself in the race. He's endorsed Youngkin at least 3 times and put out 4 or 5 statements about the race, which Terry McAuliffe seizes on each time. McAuliffe is begging Trump basically to come campaign in Virginia because he thinks it would actually help the Democrats if Trump showed up. So it's a really tricky balancing act. It's been hard for Republicans for this whole, ever since 2016 to find the right kind of magic combination, and that's what Youngkin is hoping to do.
What are the issues that are most driving voters to the polls, particularly Republicans who have reported that they are more eager? We know that education has been something that Youngkin has really been hammering hard.
Well, it's interesting. When we do polling, the issues that come out tops are the economy, the coronavirus, and education. If you look at what the campaigns are emphasizing, it's a little bit different. Youngkin and Republicans in general have been really hitting on different education-related issues, but school-related issues, school curricula, and critical race theory, which is, this academic approach to teaching the history of racism and race, but it's not actually on the curriculum in Virginia, but it's become a big flashpoint nationwide. And that has come up in some school boards around the state, and Youngkin has been right on top of that. That's a big crowd pleaser at Republican rallies. He's also talked about tax cuts and crime. Crime rates are up in Virginia as they are in most other states. Whereas on McAuliffe's side, he's tended to emphasize partly the economy because there is a pretty good economic story to tell in Virginia. It's been ranked the top state for business for 2 years in a row, the only state that's ever gotten it twice in a row. He also talks about the coronavirus. He favors vaccine mandates, and Youngkin opposes any kind of mandate. And McAuliffe is also eager to talk about abortion. Since the ruling, the Supreme Court ruling that let the new Texas law stand, that's become a big issue, particularly among women in Virginia, Democratic women. The prospect that abortion protections could fall away if Youngkin wins or if Republicans gain control of the state House of Delegates.
All right, Gregory Schneider, thank you.
Thank you.